And this asset class segment is sponsored by Invesco QQQ, and prediction market Kalshi notified federal regulators that it was self-certifying markets on whether college athletes in both basketball and football will enter the transfer portal, a move that drew swift condemnation from the NCAA. So for more on this, let's bring in asset class author Ben Horney and front office sports editor-in-chief Dan Roberts. Ben, let's start with you. Tell us more about this move here by Kalshi.
So Kalshi self-certified this contract earlier this week with the CFTC, and what that means is that they're informing it's a federal regulator that they may list this as a product that people can trade on. So there is another step. They didn't actually list the market, so it's not live. People can't put money on it, but they're telling the regulator, "Hey, we're planning to potentially do this." And in their filing, they said that they were planning to launch it yesterday. The controversy happened. They didn't launch it. Now they're saying, hey, we aren't necessarily even planning to launch it.
And as I mentioned, Dan, obviously this drew swift condemnation from the NCAA. Charlie Baker says that they are not on board with the prediction markets when it comes to transfer portal news. By the way, this has to be on public information. This has to be on if one of these individuals is saying publicly that they're entering the transfer portal. But what do you sort of think on the NCAA's take on here?
Well, not only do they have to say it, but specifically the language maker was that the contract would resolve as soon as the player says, I'm transferring. Thus, the implication, even if they then change their mind, the bet has already paid out. Now, let's just remind viewers how this works on prediction markets. And this is their whole argument as to why they are different from sports betting sites. And the federal regulator, the CFTC, has bought this argument. They say it's different from sports betting because it's a contract. It's an events contract. So instead of it being as simple as you bet on the Eagles to win and they win and you win the bet and it pays out, it's that the market gets resolved. So the player announces, I'm transferring from USC. I'm going to transfer to Stanford. And then 2 days later, Stanford fires its coach. And as often happens when there's a coaching change, the player says, never mind, I'm not. I'm decommitting to Stanford. Too bad, you've already made your money. So everyone instantly could see just how easily this could be manipulated, right? Whether it's the player himself, friends or family or people who know of the player and who know that the player is about to announce that he's going to transfer. So many ways to manipulate this market. And I just want to add quickly, Ben and I have done a lot of reporting on the risks of the Twitter accounts out there that tweet news, often intentionally, consciously fake news, some of which have Kalshi or Polymarket badges. And all this is a little bit tied up because in that story, because when we first saw the tweet yesterday evening saying that Kalshi was going to do this, it was from a third-party account, and you wondered, well, is this actually real? And it went totally nuclear because everyone, as you said, was retweeting it, dunking on it, saying this is such a problem. And at first you weren't sure, well, is this actually true? And then, of course, Ben was able to verify, yes, Kalshi filed. And by the way, you have to think that Kalshi was going to launch this until the big backlash. So the NCAA, Charlie Baker came out and condemned it. His comments very similar to ones that the NFL has made about, potentially catastrophic, and we just don't trust this stuff until it can be more regulated. But I also want to add here that for now, it is Kalshi and Polymarket, and what they do is fully greenlit by the CFTC under Trump.
So let me jump in quickly because you mentioned Polymarket, and this is an important part of this story. Polymarket, I'm still trying to figure out how much of this they've done, but they actually had a live market on a transfer portal. It was PJ Haggerty. It was whether he would transfer to NC State. The market resolved November 10th. He didn't. From what I could tell, it looked like less than $3,000 was traded on it, but it just flew under the radar because no one noticed it. But when Kalshi self-certified but haven't launched this yet, it's blowing up. So this is a common theme that we're seeing. Kalshi is the one like the public facing, taking all the bruises, where Polymarket, which was banned from operating the US for the last few years and is now back, is kind of quietly there doing the same thing, but not getting as much backlash.
Yeah, and Dan, one of the things Kalshi is saying is, look, we look at self-certifying certain markets that don't end up coming to fruition. This potentially could be one of them, but you'd have to think that that's probably not going to be the case here.
Well, never say never. I honestly, with our coverage and everything that has happened in this whole space, prediction markets in the year 2025, I just wouldn't rule anything out. And it's funny, as the noise around these companies gets louder and their household name recognition, which to their credit, either through marketing or amplification or new users, I really think more regular, casual, average Joe sports fans are aware of these companies than a year ago. Much, much, much more are. I think things keep coming out that people say, well, certainly they're not going to have that. And they do. I mean, prop bets on dildos being thrown onto the court in WNBA games, prop bets on whether Mohammed bin Salman will wear a black suit,
Yep.
whether the Coinbase CEO will say the following string of words on the earnings call. And then at the end of the earnings call, he did say all the words and laughed about it. Ha ha, I made it happen. So I wouldn't assume that just because of this backlash in the last 24 hours, you won't see transfer portal bets. They might just wait until the noise dies down. But it's all about what the CFTC will allow. And I was just on a panel recently with a New York assemblyman who said that they want to go after these companies. And he said sports betting is supposed to be state by state. But that's the whole point. They've got what amounts to a carve out because they made the argument that we're different from sports betting. And so the CFTC has said, yep, you're good in any state for now.
Ben, you're nodding your head. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, everything Dan is saying is totally true. This whole issue of them being federally regulated is so interesting. The CFTC has lost a lot of its employees over the last year or so. They have Trump's newest nominee, Mike Seelig. There was a hearing. He's not fully confirmed yet, but there was a hearing where he was grilled on this and a sports event contract specifically, and he basically said, hey, these are issues that are in front of the courts and I will defer to the courts. There's I don't know, more than a dozen court cases going on, most of them involving Kalshi, some of them involving Robinhood and Crypto.com. Again, to the point I made earlier, none of them yet involving Polymarket, which I really am wondering why Polymarket is getting out of this scot-free so far.
And just want to add real quick, credit to Ben's reporting, but recently, in response to some of the league officials, whether it was NFL, NCAA, Charlie Baker, who had said that there's no oversight right now of these companies. Ben had a Kalshi spokesperson?
Yeah.
With a real fiery response, whether you buy it or not, that basically said, how can you say there's no oversight? The CFTC has oversight, and the CFTC's oversight of us is as full and comprehensive as the SEC's oversight of the stock market. And whether you believe that or not, based on the current force and presence and size of the CFTC, is debatable.
Ben, so what happens in 2026 with these prediction markets? I mean, I feel like every week this just exacerbates and gets bigger. What happens here in 2026?
Yeah, so 2025 was the year that prediction markets exploded onto the scene. They've existed before, but they exploded. And Kalshi and Polymarket and Robinhood and all these other places, Truth Social is planning to launch one. 2026, from what I am told, is the year that some of the dust will begin to settle. And what that means is that some of the court cases will move forward. It's not clear whether there will be resolutions, but some attorneys expect this is going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And people also expect there to be consolidation, deal making. There's just not enough room for there to be 15 players here. Kalshi and Polymarket are the two that people most know, but there's going to have to be consolidation. Some might fail. So we're going to see some dust settle, but I also would expect it's going to be just as crazy.
Dan, let's give you the last word here.
Well, I do think it's true that not everyone can in this game, right? So there's going to be winners and losers. There's probably room for more than two, but right now there's been we should count them up, but like 10 that have announced. And
Yeah.
there's going to be 10 different successful prediction markets. So there will definitely be tie-ups, there will be acquisitions, and some are going to have to shut down and go away when they don't fit enough.
My last big prediction before we go, I'm going to take the last word from Dan.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the insider trading manipulation thing. There's going to be a big scandal next year of some kind, and it might be about the transfer portal. We'll see what it's about. The other thing I thought is someone that knows LeBron James will put a bunch of money on next season being his last year, and then LeBron retires. We'll see.
Ooh, wow. Going to be interesting to see all that. Asset class author Ben Horney and, of course, editor-in-chief Dan Roberts. Guys, thank you so much. And this segment was brought to you by Invesco QQQ, and we got more front office sports today right after this quick break.